Holly Willoughby had a very emotional reunion during Michael McIntyre's big show on Saturday night. You might have seen this. And it was with her midwife. Well, after the show, her daughter Belle met Fredette for the very first time since she was born. There they are, having a hug. And that got us all talking this morning about, do you remember the midwives who helped you birth your babies? And Mylene, you're very good friends with your
that really
midwife.
gets me, that clip. I love my midwife. We've become really good friends. I think it's probably because we had quite a different setup. It's not like I just met her on the day. Pippa Nightingale, she's just remarkable, but we went through 4 years of miscarriages until I got my baby. So
that is a very, very strong connection.
Oh, I love her, yeah.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to upset you.
I don't think you get those relationships all the time now with your midwife. But I got to know her for 4 years. The joke was it was her and my baby because I was in the clinic with her all the time. There she is there, and to go through 5 pregnancies really. To get my baby.
Wow. Boy. I remember my midwife, Maria, who sadly passed, but we remained friends. She came to Jack's birthday parties when he was young. Yeah. And I just remember when Holly said there, she said to her, we're going to breathe this baby out. I remember just feeling that Maria and I birthed Jack. I mean, Eamon was there and he did what he could and things, but at that moment... he did. But at that moment, I was relying on her. You know, when you have your eyes closed, I could hear her talking and going,
that's trust,
it. Keep calm, another breath. And I just remember focusing on her voice and her face that really got me through. I was a new mum. I didn't know what I was doing, and she had,
but that
birthed so many babies.
That you end up having with, another woman that you never knew you'd end up being friends. I never knew that Pippa and I would end up being friends, and now I'm at her birthday parties, and now I know her family, and we've kept that connection because she means so much to me. Because in my most vulnerable and in the most, one of the most important days of my life, she was there.
Yeah. Denise, sadly, you didn't have as positive experience or even a positive experience.
No, and I realise how incredibly important it is. But I was with Matty, and he's nearly 36. Oh my God, I can't believe when I say that, nearly 36. And I had been having a lot of problems in the NHS hospital where I was having him, so we went privately, and it was a very, very long 42-hour birth, to the point that I couldn't get to the second stage. There was no pushing down reflex. And at one point, my ex-husband, Tim, said, "Are you sure you haven't still got your tights on, Flower?" True story. Sorry, Tim, if you're watching. And anyway, but then when I went home, I had a community midwife. And this lady we didn't have a relationship, which was fine, but I was, as everybody knows, I'd been plunged into a very, very difficult postnatal depression, and she just wasn't very nice. And when my whole lactation process had stopped overnight, from having normal breastfeeding boobs to literally nothing, what you want to hear is, don't worry, this happens. And she didn't. She went, oh, dear. Well, that doesn't happen very often. That normally only happens if a parent or a spouse dies. Well, you're not going to be able to feed him naturally. You're going to have to go out and get bottles, which is not ideal. And I've remembered, so when Holly said, I remember her voice, I remember her voice, to the point that my niece Olivia is just qualified to be a doula, because realising the importance of these women, or men, but mostly women, in your life. And I think doulas are becoming more common here. In certain cultures, they're sort of, they're part and parcel of it, aren't? But I think it's very, very, very important. And I think that someone different to the one I had could have really benefited me at that time.
Such a shame.
And the thing is, we don't have enough midwives now. There's a shortage of 2,500 midwives. Some trusts have 1 in 5 midwife jobs unfulfilled at the moment.
Really? Yeah. 1 in 5?
Yeah. That's a lot, isn't it? But, I found it I don't think I could have got through it without her, actually.
No.
Because I didn't have my mum. she was down in Cornwall looking after my dad, so it wasn't possible. So, yeah, I remember that. But you were there. I said I didn't have my mum.
Yeah.
Your daughters had you, their
Yeah,
mum.
I was there when, obviously, when my grandchildren were born. When Lila was born, she was called Lisa, the midwife. I was in the room with Lauren, and her husband was there, Steve. He went for a little lay down.
Steve. Steve. All a bit exhausting.
Yeah, he did. But the midwife was amazing, honestly. She really, really was. She talked us through everything. I had a laptop videoing every detail. I said to Lauren, what, you want every detail? She said, yeah. So I got every single detail on it, and she sits and watches it now and cries her eyes out.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then,
but how did you find that experience?
oh my God, so emotional.
Baby?
Honestly, it was so emotional. I was so scared something was going to be wrong or whatever. But the midwife was absolutely amazing. We laid and watched a video for a while while she was actually in labour until it was time for her to push. But then when she had Betsy, first of all, Lila was £9 something, and then Betsy came along and they said, this baby's going to be a really big baby. So she went, oh, I know, the last one was £9. They went, no, bigger than that.
How big?
So £11 too. And they said to her, would you like to try and... I know, it hurts, doesn't it? And they said, would you like to try and pass it naturally? And I said, no, she wouldn't. The baby's too big, she's going to be in stress and trauma, and so is the baby.
Yeah.
So she had a caesarean and everything was fine, thank God.
Well, yeah, I mean, amazing.
Yeah. It's the most emotional thing that you can ever go through, and it really is.
Like, just when you become a grandparent, seeing your baby have a baby.
Yeah.
To be there, amazing. As so many of you getting in touch,
She probably didn't actually want me there, but there was no way I wanted to be there.
Should have a choice. Lots of you getting in touch with your midwife stories. Abby said, I'll never forget my midwife, Harriet, with my first baby. My baby was born during the pandemic in 2021. I wasn't allowed anyone in with me during labour. Gosh, do you remember that? Harriet spent the whole 12 hours with me in full PPE, only having 2 10-minute tea breaks. She was and still is amazing, and she made me feel at ease. It was the most beautiful experience, and that's all down to her. She will forever hold a special place in my heart. Wow. Midwives are unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I mean, actually, that is really covering so many of your comments. I'm really sorry I haven't got time to read them, but everyone's saying how amazing their midwives were, and thank you very much for getting in touch, because we love to hear from you.